The new Mac Minis and Mac Studios are finally available for pre-order, and you might find yourself asking, should I get the M5 Pro Mac Mini or should I spend $800 more to get the M5 Max Mac Studio? And at first glance, it might look like, well, the CPU just gives you 3 more cores on the Mac Studio than you get with the Mac Mini M5 Pro, but the CPU is not really where your money's going. There's 4 other lines on the spec sheet that explain exactly when you should be spending more money to get the Mac Studio than the Mac Mini, and if fewer than 2 of these lines describe you, you're about to spend $800 on a computer that's going to feel exactly like the cheaper one. And I haven't tested either of these machines yet. The pre-orders are open and they ship out September 22nd. I've got all 4 models on the way, so I'm going to be doing tons of tests on them. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for those videos as soon as they drop. If you get the M5 Pro in the Mac Mini, then you get a 15-core CPU and a 16-core GPU at the base price. But if you upgrade and spend an extra couple $100, you get 18 CPU cores and 20 GPU cores, which is still about half of what you get with the M5 Max. And there's 2 versions of the M5 Max Mac Studio as well. There's the 18 CPU core and the 32 GPU core base model, and you can also get an upgraded version that takes the GPU up to 40 cores. So the total number of CPU cores are pretty close, but it's really the graphics that you need to pay attention to, because the Mac Studio has roughly double the GPU cores at every tier, which means if your work leans on the GPU, that's the main line that matters to you. But in my opinion, the memory is the real divider, because the M5 Pro starts with 24 gigs of unified memory. You can upgrade it to 64 gigabytes if you want, but the Mac Studio starts with 36 gigabytes of RAM, and with the M5 Max chip, you can go all the way up to 128 gigabytes. And the memory bandwidth is the spec here that really splits the performance of the chips, because the M5 Pro Mac Mini moves data at 307 gigabytes a second, and the base Mac Studio does 460 gigabytes a second. And if you get the upgraded chip and even more RAM on it, then the higher configuration hits 614 gigabytes a second. And the bandwidth is how fast the actual processor is able to pull from the RAM. And things like high resolution video timelines care about this. Also, large local AI models really appreciate having extra memory bandwidth. If you're just browsing the web or doing basic productivity tasks, you're not really going to notice a difference. Or also, if you're just running Photoshop or Safari in a Zoom call, 24 gigabytes on the M5 Pro is still going to feel great. But if you want to run a large language model locally on your own hardware, then the Mac Studio is going to be a better option. And honestly, the 128 gigabyte ceiling of the M5 Max is one of the reasons that you would really want to consider this, because you can load larger models than you'll be able to with anything on the M5 Pro. Another area where I really appreciate the Mac Studio over the M5 Pro Mac Mini is in all the extra ports you get. And of course, you do have to deal with the larger size of the Mac Studio. It's not going to be as portable for you, but with the M5 Pro Mac Mini, you get 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports on the back, HDMI port. There's also 2.5 gigabit Ethernet standard, which is a welcome upgrade, but if you want to get 10 gig, it's going to cost an extra $100. Then on the front of the computer, you get 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack. You can run up to 3 external displays with the M5 Pro. But with the M5 Max Mac Studio, you get 4 Thunderbolt 5 ports on the back, and it also comes with the 10 gigabit Ethernet standard. It also has 2 USB-A ports on the back, which actually comes in handy for a lot of things like audio interfaces or those little dongles that you use for a wireless keyboard and mouse. You also still have HDMI on the back of it, and on the front of it, you've got 2 USB-C ports, and there's an SD card slot, which is actually surprisingly handy to have that built in. And you can have up to 5 external displays on the M5 Max Mac Studio. I think the 10 gigabit Ethernet is a really nice added feature for the Mac Studio, because it's one of those things you might not need now, but you'll appreciate having it later if you upgrade to that kind of workflow and you're doing a lot with a NAS. And I think it's also annoying that you can't upgrade it later on with the Mac Mini, so you might not need it now, but if you need it later, it's nice to have that already built in. So now that we've talked about the differences in the processors, the memory bandwidth, and the actual physical ports, which one should you buy? If you just want a fast desktop computer that's able to just disappear on your desk, the M5 Pro Mac Mini is going to be the best choice for you, because it's still the same 5-inch square. You can easily put it behind a monitor, under a desk, or inside a cabinet. And the 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports on it can handle any external drive you throw at it, and you can also always add a docking station if you need more ports later on. This handles everything from office work, photo editing, you can do coding, you can do music production, and you can easily edit 4K videos on the M5 Pro Mac Mini. This thing is more machine than most people even need. Also with the Mac Mini, if you need more internal storage, of course you can always upgrade it just like you can with the Mac Studio. The storage isn't really the reason to move up to the Studio. I'd push you towards the M5 Max Mac Studio if you need to run 4 or 5 external displays, if you want the extra ports on it, if you've already got a 10 gigabit network, it's going to be a great option for you. Also, the extra RAM that you get with the base model and the opportunity to upgrade add even more memory, is another reason that you should consider the M5 Max. The main reason I would recommend you getting the M5 Max though is if you're a video editor, because this is the most concrete difference I've ever found between the Pro chips and the Max chips. Because all the Pro chips from M1 on have had one video encode engine and one ProRes encode and decode engine, but the M5 Max Studio has two video encode engines and two ProRes encode and decode engines, which means that the Max chips actually export video about double the speed of their Pro counterparts. I found this to be true for the M4 Pro Mac Mini compared to the M4 Max Studio. The M4 Max's export times are about half of that of the M4 Pro. This is really important to you if you do a ton of video production work, because of course you can always go on a walk or do something while a video exports, but if you're spitting tons of exports out, or if you're previewing things and then you need to make changes and re-export and render the whole video, that's where the M5 Max chip is worth its weight in gold, and the $800 is going to quickly pay for itself. A lot of people have said in the past, well, the Pro chip is still just as good at video editing as the Max chip. You're not really going to notice a difference whenever you're decoding videos or playing back and scrubbing on the timeline. It's the actual encoding it and doing the exports where you're going to see the vast performance gains. And also, if you're doing a ton of multicam clips, that's where the extra memory bandwidth comes into play as well. One more honest note on price: the M4 Max Studio started at $2,000, and the M4 Pro Mac Mini was about $1,400, and now we're at $1,700 for the M5 Pro and $2,500 for the M5 Max. So the price increase is definitely bigger than it used to be. But if you're doing the kind of work where time is money and you're exporting a lot of videos, or if you need the extra ports or the extra memory bandwidth, that's when the $800 price difference to me kind of disappears, because you're going to be able to quickly make that up with the time that you save. But if you're not convinced you need a Mac Studio and you're still thinking about buying the M5 Pro, before you go out and spend $1,700, take a quick look at the M6 Mac Mini, because it still has 12 CPU cores, 12 GPU cores, and it has the dual neural engine. It can run up to 32 gigabytes of memory. It's got Thunderbolt 4 instead of Thunderbolt 5, and you can actually still run 3 external displays with the M6 Mac Mini. And Apple says it's technically 40% faster on CPU than the M4 Mini, and up to 4 times the speed for local AI tasks. So for a large number of people watching this video, I think the M6 Mac Mini is actually the right machine to buy. The biggest drawback to it is it just starts with 256 gigabytes of storage, which to me is just not enough in 2026 by the time you have things like iMessage, your applications on the computer, system files. That's going to fill up really fast, so I think you got to start and get at least the 512 gigabyte SSD on it, although the 24 gigabyte of RAM upgrade would still be the preferred one. But to me, the 512 is the one that Apple should have started with. The M6 Mac Mini is honestly the one that most people are going to be totally fine with. But move up to the M5 Pro if you want to add more storage and more RAM, because by the time you put both of those upgrades into the M6, you're going to be quickly closing the gap on the M5 Pro. The extra memory bandwidth is going to pay for itself in the long run. So that's everything I think about the M5 Pro and the M5 Max chips in both the Mac Mini and the Mac Studio. As soon as I get these computers in hand, I'm going to be doing tons of real-world testing and comparison to see just how much faster the Mac Studio is than the M5 Pro Mac Mini. And if you're excited for that video, hit subscribe if you want to see these tests as soon as I get them done. And also, if you're confused about which computer to pre-order, I got a form on my website you can fill out, adamtalks.tech/Mac, where I'm happy to give you personalized Mac buying advice. Like this video, stick around to the channel for all the upcoming reviews.